The humid August air clung to Malik Thompson's skin as he trudged up the cracked concrete steps of the Westbrook Community Center. Evening shadows stretched long across the parking lot, its asphalt pitted and faded, like the turnout numbers he'd been wrestling with all summer. He pushed open the heavy glass door and was greeted by the familiar murmur of concern that had become the soundtrack of every civic meeting. Elders fretting over confusing paper forms, young families debating confusing ID requirements, and local activists pleading for longer polling hours. Malik eased into a folding chair at the front of the room, thumbed the bulging stack of registration pamphlets on his lap, and watched as Mrs. Jenkins, age 78, struggled with a flimsy clipboard. He remembered how she'd told him last month that she'd waited in line for 3 hours, only to be sent home when the scanner broke down. Frustration roared in his chest. As a self-taught software engineer and Westbrook native, he had spent nights debugging code. Yet here, in his own neighborhood, people were being shut out of democracy by broken systems. When the county registrar concluded her perfunctory presentation and opened the floor, Malik rose, voice steady but urgent. What if we could streamline this process? Register, find your polling site, and get reminders, all on your phone. Heads turned, eyebrows lifted. A hush fell. That question, so simple in Silicon Valley pitch decks, felt radical here. After the meeting, Malik returned home and pushed aside empty pizza boxes to clear room on his desk. He booted up his battered laptop, its cooling fan whirring a familiar welcome. On the screen glowed his favorite code editor, lines of Python and JavaScript awaiting direction. He sketched a wireframe on a scrap of printer paper. 3 bold buttons: register, locate poll, remind me, and a map interface powered by the state's Open Data API. Over the next 48 hours, Malik transformed that sketch into a living prototype. He wrote scripts to ingest official voter roll CSVS, normalized addresses with geospatial libraries, and built a secure SQLite database to store user registrations. He crafted a clean React Native interface so users could tap through each step in under 30 seconds. Upload an ID photo, select a precinct, and set a push notification time. For real-time line tracking, he integrated a simple crowdsourcing form. Users could submit wait times and machine status updates with one swipe. By dawn's pale light, Vote Ready, as Malik christened it, popped up on his phone. He tested it. Registration confirmed. Polling place pin dropped 2 blocks away, and an alert scheduled for 7 a.m. sent a gentle chime. Heart pounding, he packaged the APK, deployed it to a private beta channel, and texted the link to 10 trusted neighbors in his church group and the barbershop crew. That afternoon, Malik sat back in his desk chair, weary but elated. His living room, strewn with empty coffee cups and code printouts, felt charged with possibility. For the first time, technology promised to bridge Westbrook's civic gaps rather than widen them. And Malik knew this was only the beginning. By mid-August, Vote Ready's first glimmer of promise had rippled through Westbrook, and Malik Thompson knew it was time to move beyond beta testers to full-on community empowerment. On a muggy Saturday morning, he unloaded folding chairs and a canine cheap projector into the basement conference room of the Martin Luther King Jr. Library. The stale carpet smelled faintly of mildew, but the rows of expectant faces, church elders, young families, and laborers on their day off, gave the space new life. "Good morning, everyone," Malik began, voice steady despite the hum of the aging air conditioner. He clicked the remote, and Vote Ready's home screen bathed their eager faces in soft blue light. "Today we register, find our polling places, and set reminders, all in under a minute." Miss Mary Jenkins, her silver hair woven into tight braids, stepped forward first. She clutched a flip phone like it was a lifeline. "I've never used one of these," she quavered, voice thick with both fear and determination. Malik knelt beside her, guiding her weathered fingers across the register button. The app's simple form lit up: name, address, birth date. When Mary tapped submit, her lips trembled in disbelief as the confirmation dialogue appeared. "Oh my," she whispered. "I'm really registered?" Tears glistened in her eyes as the other attendees erupted in applause. Next, Malik led them through Locate Poll. He demonstrated the map's pinch-to-zoom function and warned that a handful of precincts had changed this year. Vote Ready will alert you if we see line length reports or broken scanners, he explained. A young mother raised her hand. What if I don't have Wi-Fi? Malik grinned. Our mobile data usage is minimal, roughly the size of a text message per lookup. And we have backup paper flyers for any dry spots. With that, he handed out bright green Vote Ready cards, printed with a hotline number. The church's basement quickly turning into an impromptu tech support center. That afternoon, Malik set up shop at Cornerstone Baptist Church, under a soaring stained glass window. Pastor Lewis, booming from the pulpit, introduced Vote Ready as our digital pulpit for the ballot box. Congregants clustered around Malik's laptop, teens guiding grandparents through the precinct split feature, and toddlers toddling between pews, clutching Vote Ready flyers. By the time the choir finished Lift Every Voice, over 50 congregants had registered in-app, and countless more took cards to share with family. From there, Malik and 2 volunteers, high school students in Vote Ready t-shirts, descended on Tony's barbershop. The scent of aftershave mingled with hot clippers, as Tony himself paused mid-fade to scan a code from a laminated poster. This is slick, he declared, nodding to Malik. One by one, customers, young men in hoodies, businessmen in pressed suits, took turns tapping Remind Me and Guide My Way. Tony pinned a Vote Ready flyer above his mirror. A vote for Westbrook was now as easy as a fresh haircut. Back at the community center that evening, Malik monitored the real-time voter check-in board, a rented LED trailer parked curbside, its grid of green dots flowering across precincts as check-ins poured in. Miss Mary emerged, leaning on her cane, and pointed at her own dot. Look, Malik, there I am, she beamed. Around her, neighbors who'd never believed their turnout could rise watched the map bloom with possibility. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Westbrook's battered sidewalks, Malik closed his laptop with a satisfied nod. Vote Ready was no longer just an app. It had become a movement, one wedded to the trust of every Westbrook voter, built on patience, presence, and the promise that democracy could finally come home. Just 3 days before the election, Malik Thompson arrived at the Westbrook Community Center at dawn to prepare for a final round of user tutorials, and instead found chaos. The long fluorescent tubes overhead flickered as he booted up his laptop on the folding table, covered in Vote Ready flyers. On the screen, the real-time dashboard he'd proudly shown off only hours before lay broken. The precinct map tiles were blank gray boxes, and a jagged red Error 503 Service Unavailable banner spanned the top. His stomach knotted as he tapped the console. Normally, half-hour peaks hovered around 500 active users. Now, the authentication logs screamed tens of thousands of failed login attempts in the last 5 minutes. Each record bore an IP address that, by every lookup, belonged to the county election board's network. Frowning, Malik rummaged through layers of server logs. There it was again, a pattern of repeated 401 unauthorized responses targeted exclusively at Westbrook area voter tokens. Meanwhile, polling place change alerts had been sent en masse, falsely telling 300 residents that their precinct had moved 20 miles away. Panicked volunteers gathered around as Malik pointed at the screen. Tasha, the high school coder, hovered with her phone in hand. People are panicking, she said, voice cracking. I just got a text from Mrs. Jenkins. She's sure she's at the wrong place. Malik took a deep breath and launched a network sniffer. Packet captures showed that every time a user tapped Locate Poll, the app's JavaScript was silently rerouting calls to a counterfeit domain, votereadyupdate.com, prompting a fraudulent security patch download. That patch, he realized in horror, was a Trojan that stole login credentials and wiped session cookies, locking genuine voters out entirely. He swiveled to Luis Hernandez, the volunteer sysadmin, who was furiously typing at a second laptop. They've also throttled our SMS gateway, Luis reported, eyes wide. All messages to 555-Westbrook numbers are queued indefinitely, while neighboring area codes get instant reminders. Malik pinched the bridge of his nose. A quick inspection of the SMS provider's dashboard confirmed it. Delivery rates to Westbrook were hovering at 10%, compared to 95% elsewhere. Malik's throat tightened with anger as he realized the magnitude of the collusion. white election officials exploiting whitelisted IP privileges, a local telecom insider abusing carrier controls, and a malicious script designed to fracture his community's vote. Yet standing amid the cluster of volunteers, pale faces lit by laptop glow, he felt a surge of resolve. Rallying them around a mismatched whiteboard, he sketched a rapid counteroffensive. Spawn an off-grid mirror of Vote Ready on neutral cloud servers. Rotate API endpoints through encrypted Tor bridges to evade blocked IPs. Swap in open-source VoIP SMS gateways, and prepare a manual fallback. Printed precinct maps and phone tree alerts to every registered voter. As sunlight crept through the dusty windows, Malik closed his laptop and met his team's anxious eyes. "They think they can silence us," he said, voice steady, "but we'll outthink them yet. We'll get every single Westbrook vote heard." With the echo of his promise hanging in the humming backroom, they sprang into action, an improvised army determined to reclaim democracy bite by bite. 2 weeks later, Malik found himself standing in the gleaming glass-walled lobby of Synertech's Menlo Park headquarters, heart hammering like a jackhammer against his ribs. His laptop bag swung at his side, stuffed with prototype code, benchmark graphs, and a slick pitch deck proclaiming Vote Ready as the first true mobile voting platform for underserved communities. He was ushered through security, past polished white pillars, into a boardroom ringed by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured lawns. Inside, 4 senior engineers, each a clean-shaven white man in branded polo shirts, sat behind a long walnut table. Their expressions were polite but guarded, as Malik set up his laptop and launched a live demo. With a tap, he showed them real-time geospatial heat maps, server response times under 200 milliseconds, and SMS delivery success rates above 95%. His voice brimmed with passion. Imagine every Westbrook resident, young, elderly, working 2 jobs, receiving voting reminders in their pocket, bypassing broken scanners and long lines. The engineers nodded and asked rehearsed questions about GDPR compliance and enterprise integrations. When Malik answered each with concrete code examples and open-source references, one of them, arms folded, leaned back and said in a flat tone, "This is interesting, Mr. Thompson, but we're already committed to our in-house solution roadmap. We don't see a fit." Another added, "Good luck finding a niche market." Their pens tapped blank slides. Their smiles never reached their eyes. Weeks of similar meetings followed at Microsoft. "Your team's too small to support our infrastructure." Dataverse, "We have strict vendor lists and you're not on them." And Prime Meta, "This would disrupt our product timeline." Each rejection came with the same thinly veiled condescension. "I'm sure your solution will do well elsewhere." With every polite dismissal, Malik felt the air go cold, a crystallizing realization that the very gatekeepers of innovation were slamming the doors on a solution designed to empower the disadvantaged. Yet, in their stonewall, he found renewed determination. If Silicon Valley wouldn't embrace Vote Ready, he would build it for Westbrook himself and prove their myopia a fatal error. Within hours of Lean Compute's flashy launch and the press fading their proprietary breakthrough, James Carter's notifications began to explode. His inbox brimmed not with silence this time, but with emails from developers around the globe. "Forked your repo here? Integrated your sparse overlay into my microcontroller build? Benchmark on my rig. Yields identical speedups." Recognizing the moment's urgency, James announced an emergency livestream on GitHub and Hacker News, framing it as a call to arms for open innovation. He stood in his Atlanta co-working space, hoodie pulled tight, webcam trained on his second-hand whiteboard. "They tried to hijack our work," he told the 500 viewers, "but this isn't just my code. It belongs to every engineer who's ever battled bloat and monopoly. Tonight, we prove that open collaboration can outpace closed doors." What followed was a 12-hour sprint of exhilarating chaos. Contributors, white, black, Asian, and Latinx, poured in pull requests. Optimizations for ARM-based edge devices, Python wrappers for data scientists, Rust bindings for security-focused applications. A PhD candidate in Munich added automated sparse matrix quantization. A self-taught coder in Mumbai submitted a WebAssembly demo that ran in any browser. Each patch came with meticulous unit tests, CI workflows, and benchmarking scripts comparing memory usage and throughput against Lean Compute's closed binaries. Meanwhile, James worked the phones. He persuaded three major cloud providers to donate GPU instances for an impartial, open benchmark suite. Under the banner, Show Your Bench, they ran thousands of jobs across global data centers, live streaming real-time comparisons that left no doubt James's Carter framework matched or outperformed the so-called Respectra AI at a fraction of the cost and carbon footprint. The public spectacle proved devastating for Lean Compute. Their GitHub demo repos were flooded with issue reports referencing James's commits. Their investors quietly froze additional funding rounds. Dataverse, having initially dismissed James as academic, published a white paper crediting his open-source implementation as the industry standard. Even Microsoft's head of research issued a rare public apology. We overlooked the open community's power. Dr. Carter's contributions stand at the heart of modern model optimization. By dawn, the open-source repository had garnered over 10,000 stars and 2,500 merged pull requests. James watched volunteers from 5 continents celebrate in community chat rooms, sharing pizza recipes, data center screenshots, and heartfelt messages. Thank you for believing in open science, wrote Sophia in Sao Paulo. My grandmother voted for you, posted Rahul in Delhi. As the sun rose over Atlanta, James leaned back, exhaustion and exhilaration mingling in his chest. The algorithm he discovered in a dorm room was now powering a global data network revolution, built not behind closed boardroom doors, but in the open forge of collective ingenuity and justice. Within weeks of the open source uprising, Dr. Carter's sparse overlay network began seeping into production systems around the globe. It started modestly. A nonprofit climate research lab in Copenhagen implemented his algorithm to accelerate atmospheric simulations, slashing their compute costs by 60%. Then, during a grueling 72-hour hackathon at Tokyo's Riken Center, a team of data scientists used Carter's sparse matrix pruning to reduce memory use in a genome sequencing pipeline by 4-fold, enabling real-time analysis on standard desktops. Meanwhile, the 3 major cloud providers that James had coaxed into donating GPU time, Aurora Cloud, Nimbus Compute, and Terrasphere, announced Project Carter, a joint initiative to bake his framework into their proprietary ML serving platforms. Aurora's CTO debuted a live demo at their annual summit. Image classification throughput doubled on Carter-optimized models, while energy consumption dipped by 45%. Conference halls buzzed as white and non-white engineers alike crowded the Carter Track workshops, eager to integrate the open-source library into everything from autonomous vehicle LiDAR stacks to real-time financial market analytics. Back in Atlanta, James oversaw a small, scrappy operations team housed in a refurbished warehouse, the Carter Innovation Hub. They managed rolling releases, curated community-driven roadmap proposals, and fielded pull requests for emerging hardware targets. Apple's M-series SoCs, NVIDIA's Jetson Edge modules, Google's TPU clusters. Each integration was validated against Carter's signature benchmark suite, now running on over 2,000 nodes across 5 continents. The true test came when an international consortium of humanitarian relief agencies deployed his lightweight models on solar-powered drones in sub-Saharan Africa. These Relief Eyes UAVs used real-time image analysis to locate flood survivors among mangled villages, processing high-resolution imagery on 4 gigabytes of onboard RAM. The drones identified trapped victims within seconds, coordinating rescue teams via satellite link. Local news outlets hailed the drones as lifesavers, and James received tearful thanks from the field officers whose timeliness had saved dozens of lives. Corporate adopters followed suit. A leading e-commerce giant reported that integrating Carter's algorithm into their recommendation engine cut inference server costs by $15 million in a single quarter, while trimming latency on mobile apps to sub-100 millisecond responses. Even rival research labs, once dismissive of his garage origins, published peer-reviewed papers benchmarking extensions of Carter's sparse routing for NLP transformers and graph neural networks, citing his 2019 commit as foundational work. As James surveyed the global map dotted with glowing Carter-optimized logos, from Stockholm's wind turbine simulators to Sao Paulo's traffic prediction grids, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. What began as a hackathon epiphany had grown into an ecosystem sustaining critical research, commercial products, and humanitarian missions. In every data center humming with efficiency gains, in every remote clinic receiving faster medical image analyses, and in every drone spotlighting survivors from the sky, James Carter's code stood as a testament to the power of open collaboration, proof that a single breakthrough, shared freely, could power the planet toward a smarter, greener future. 6 months after VoteReady's victory, James Carter found himself standing beneath the soaring glass dome of the International Summit on Sustainable Computing in Geneva. Delegates, environmental ministers, corporate CTOS, open source advocates, and heads of UN agencies filled the tiers of the circular auditorium. Banners proclaimed Green AI for All in every major language. As the lights dimmed, James stepped to the sleek white lectern, his heart swelling at the sight of so many faces, white, black, brown, united by a shared vision of technology as a force for good. He began not with grandiose claims, but with the humble story of that dorm room breakthrough. Cables tangled around a secondhand laptop, nights spent debugging code by desk lamp. He described how closed-door rejections in Silicon Valley had galvanized a global community of developers to rally behind the open-source sparse overlay network. When he clicked to display a world map speckled with glowing, Carter-optimized logos, from Copenhagen's climate models to Nairobi's drone rescue squads, the audience broke into spontaneous applause that echoed off the marble walls. Then came his announcement, the launch of the Carter Foundation for Equitable AI, a nonprofit trust dedicated to funding underrepresented technologists. James unveiled the foundation's flagship program, 10 $50,000 microgrants awarded annually to engineers from underserved regions, covering compute resources, mentorship stipends, and travel funds to international conferences. As the camera panned over the faces of the inaugural cohort, female hackers from Lagos, self-taught robotics builders in Bogota, rural data scientists in Punjab, the auditorium buzzed with the promise of new possibilities. That afternoon, James hosted a side event workshop on the summit's lawn, where solar-powered workstations hummed with Carter AI demos. Young coders from Brazil tested edge device models. A delegation from Vietnam integrated the algorithm into rice yield predictions, and a team of Bangladeshi students showcased low-latency COVID screening tools. Malik's open-source ethos had blossomed into a worldwide ecosystem of innovation, where every contribution, no matter how small, was celebrated. Back in Atlanta, the refurbished warehouse that housed the Carter Innovation Hub brimmed with activity. Interns refining GPU kernels, legal fellows drafting open data policies, and community organizers teaching coding to neighborhood youth. James surveyed the hub's murals, vibrant tributes to Ada Lovelace, Grace Hopper, and his own dorm room setup, and felt the full arc of his journey, from frustrated outsider to steward of a global movement. As the Swiss sunset gilded the summit's glass facade, James closed his keynote. True progress emerges not from closed boardrooms, but from open collaboration, where every voice shapes the code that shapes our world. The standing ovation that followed wasn't just for his algorithm, but for a conviction that equity and innovation walk hand in hand, and that a single spark in a dorm room can ignite a revolution of shared brilliance.